July 15, 1982. King County, Washington. The body of a young woman floated face down in the Green River. Her hands were bound. Rocks filled her bra. She was only the first. Over the next 2 years, more women were found, dumped, drowned, strangled. Always near the water. Always young. Always gone too soon. Police were desperate. But the killer? He was invisible. He had a wife, a job, a house, and a terrifying secret. He was Gary Ridgway. They called him the Green River Killer. And he didn't stop until 49 victims later, maybe more. This is a true story. Every part of it is real. Subscribe now to an Unbelievable True Story. Watch to the end, because the final truth may still be buried. July 15, 1982. 7:35 a.m. King County, Washington. The sky was gray. Fog rolled low over the water. A young boy stood by the riverbank, skipping stones. But then, his last stone didn't bounce. It hit something soft. Floating. Face down. Hair tangled in weeds. Hands tied behind her back. A rock stuffed into her bra to keep her down. It was the body of Wendy Lee Caulfield. Just 16 years old. Who would kill a child like this? Why tie her down with rocks? And what kind of man keeps going again and again? Because Wendy was just the beginning. August 1982. Another body. Then another. Deborah Borner, Marsha Chapman, Cynthia Hines, Opal Mills. All young women. All left in or near the Green River. Some naked. Some strangled. Some only bones. Panic hit Washington. The press gave it a name. The Green River Killer. 2 men were assigned to the case. Detective Dave Reichert, calm. Smart. A man who couldn't sleep at night. Detective Frank Atchley, tough. Sharp. Believed this was more than just murder. They searched the riverside, mile by mile. But the killer was always ahead. At the time, no one suspected him. He was just a truck painter. Lived in a small house. Went to church. Married. Quiet. Friendly. But in secret. He had a routine. He picked up women. Offered them rides. Drove to remote places. Strangled them from behind. Then, he dumped their bodies like trash. Sometimes near trees. Sometimes in the water. Sometimes in groups, so they'd be found together. He once said, "It made me feel like God. I could decide who lived." He chose the Green River for a reason. It was quiet. Remote. Forgotten. The current pulled away evidence. The water ruined DNA. And no one walked there at night. He called it his dumping ground. Most were sex workers. Young. Struggling. Looking for food, shelter, or help. But they were daughters. Sisters. People with dreams. He preyed on those who trusted him. He looked normal. He smiled. He didn't shout. He just choked the life out of them. Then went home to dinner. Gary Ridgway was smart in one way. He kept it simple. No knives. No guns. No big mess. No souvenirs. And he moved the bodies often. Sometimes he even went back, days later, just to relive the moment. By late 1983, more than 15 victims had been found. The Green River Task Force was created. FBI profilers came in. They guessed? He had a regular job. He was in control. He blended in. They were right. but they had no name. In 1983, police actually spoke to Ridgway. Why? Because a few women had reported seeing his truck near the river. He admitted he picked up girls. He said, "Yeah, I talked to them. But I'm no killer." They believed him. Let him go. He smiled and picked up another victim that night. By 1984, the task force had a map filled with red pins. Each pin, a victim. Some close together. Some far. But all connected by one thing. Gary's need to kill. Once, Gary left a tiny speck of blood under a victim's fingernail. But it wasn't enough. Back then, DNA science was new. Slow. Not ready to catch him yet. It would take almost 20 more years before that blood told the truth. One night, families of the victims held candles by the water. They prayed. They cried. They waited. One mother whispered, "Whoever you are, you stole my baby. But you can't steal my love." Ridgway was just a few miles away. Watching. Smiling. 1984, no end in sight. It had been 2 years. Over 20 bodies. The Green River was now known for death. Detectives were running out of time, patience, and hope. One officer said, "It was like chasing a ghost through a graveyard." He was still painting trucks. Still married. Still smiling. And still killing. In May 1984, Gary was brought in again. Why? His name had come up twice. He matched the FBI's profile. He visited known areas where victims disappeared. They asked hard questions. Hooked him up to a polygraph machine. He passed. The machine couldn't tell he was lying. So they crossed him off the list. John Douglas. The real-life inspiration for Netflix's Mindhunter. A pioneer of criminal profiling. He studied the case and said, "The killer is organized. He returns to the scenes. He keeps souvenirs." And he warned, if he's not stopped, he'll kill for decades. At night, Ridgway would clean everything. Bleach. Rags. Plastic gloves. He scrubbed his car. Vacuumed the seats. Even burned his clothes. Then he'd read the Bible. He believed killing was a mission. A way to cleanse the world of sin. He thought God forgave him. Every time. Gary was married to Judith Mawson. She thought he was perfect. He made me dinner. Brought me flowers. Never raised his voice. He told her he worked late. Went fishing. Ran errands. All lies. At the same time, he was dumping bodies in rivers and ravines. She had no idea. Gary drove a dark pickup truck for work. He often used it to pick up victims. They got in thinking he was kind. Harmless. Just a quiet guy offering a ride. He'd park in wooded areas. Then strike. He had a routine. Strangle. Hide. Return later to relive it. He once said, "Going back made it feel real again." Police noticed something strange. Some victims were posed. Some were grouped. Some had items placed beside them, shoes, gum wrappers, lipstick. It was a message. But no one could read it. Not yet. Some girls were just 14 or 15. Gary didn't care. He said younger girls were easier to control. And if they screamed, he strangled them faster. He admitted, "I looked for the ones who wouldn't be missed." That was the horror. He hunted the forgotten. One woman got away. She had gotten into Gary's truck. He drove her to the woods. Started choking her. But she bit him. Scratched his arms. Ran barefoot through the trees. She called the cops. They took a report. But again, they didn't connect it to the Green River killer. Detective Dave Reichert kept a wall of faces in his office. All victims. All waiting for justice. He lost sleep. Grew tired. But never gave up. He told reporters, "If it takes my whole life, I'll find him." And one day, he would. By 1987, DNA testing was being developed. But it was slow. Costly. Not widely used. They had semen samples. But no way to match them. So the killer stayed free. And women kept dying. In the early 1990s, something strange happened. The murders slowed down. Bodies stopped appearing. Some thought he died. Or moved. Or was in jail. But no. Gary was just changing his habits. Becoming smarter. More careful. Or maybe he had gotten bored. For nearly a decade, the Green River case went cold. But the families never gave up. Neither did Detective Reichert. Behind the scenes, he stored evidence. Held files. Waited for science to catch up. He said, "We're not done. He'll slip. They always do." And he was right. Year 2001. Almost 20 years after the first victim was found. DNA technology had evolved. Detective Dave Reichert had never stopped trying. He reopened the evidence boxes. Pulled out tiny swabs taken from a few victims. Sent them for testing. And this time, science spoke. The DNA matched one man. A man police had interviewed years ago. A man who had passed a polygraph. A man who still lived in the same house. His name, Gary Leon Ridgway. November 30th, 2001. It was a normal morning. Gary was at work, painting trucks. The police came quietly. No guns drawn. No sirens. They walked up to him. Put him in cuffs. He didn't resist. He just said, "What took you so long?" Detective Reichert made the first call. To a mother whose daughter had gone missing in 1983. He told her, "We got him. After all these years, we got him." She dropped the phone. Then whispered, "I knew she'd never just leave." Gary sat calm. No twitch. No tears. He spoke slowly. Quietly. Almost politely. He admitted to dozens of murders. But here's the twist. He couldn't remember all their names. He said, "I killed so many. I lost count." He drew maps. Marked trees. Back roads. Hidden ditches. He walked detectives through each place. "Here's where I left her clothes. I parked here, then walked 20 steps north. She was face down, near the moss." His memory was terrifying. He forgot their names, but remembered their deaths. Gary said, "I killed them because I hated prostitutes. I thought I was helping clean the streets. But I kept doing it. Even when I didn't want to anymore. It wasn't just hate. It was addiction. A hunger. A secret he fed in silence." One officer later told reporters, "He was the most controlled serial killer we'd ever seen. He never raised his voice. Never got angry. But the things he described will never leave my mind." Inside Gary's house, police found women's jewelry, shoes, lipsticks, hairpins, photos of wooded areas, souvenirs, trophies, each one tied to a life lost. November 5th, 2003. 2 years after his arrest, Gary Ridgway stood in court. The room was packed with families. mothers, fathers, siblings, and silence. He pled guilty to 48 murders, the largest known serial murder case in US history at the time. One by one, family members spoke. Some screamed. Some cried. Some stared. But one man, the father of a victim, looked Gary in the eye and said, "I don't hate you. You made it hard, but I forgive you." Gary wept. He covered his face and cried for the first time in public. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Many people asked, why didn't he get the death penalty? Here's why. Gary cooperated. He led police to bodies, gave answers families had waited for. In exchange, prosecutors took the death penalty off the table. Instead, he was sentenced to 48 life sentences without parole. Today, Gary Ridgway sits in a small concrete cell. No view. No privacy. No name, just a number. He eats alone. Walks alone. Sleeps alone. He'll die behind bars. And that's the only peace some families have. After his conviction, Gary Ridgway wrote strange, chilling letters. In one, he said, "I don't remember all the faces, but I remember the feeling, the power, the silence afterward. That was the part one liked most." He spoke about the woods like they were sacred. Said the river was his friend. He called his killings rituals. There was no remorse. Only memories. Though he confessed to 48 murders, investigators believe it could be more than 90. Why? Some remains were never identified. Some victims were found far outside the known map. Some women went missing around Gary's truck routes, but their bodies were never recovered. Ridgway said, "I left them everywhere. Some they'll never find." Even now, he's the primary suspect in dozens of unsolved cases. FBI agents described hours of interviews. Gary never yelled. Never shook. Never stopped smiling. One agent said, "He talked about murder like most people talk about the weather. He remembered exact tree lines, gravel textures, rain patterns, but not names, not voices, not who they were, only what he did to them." Sometimes, Gary returned to the bodies days or weeks later. He would sit near them, talk to them, touch them, even after they were long gone. He admitted, "I felt safe there, like I was with someone who couldn't hurt me." He saw them not as people, but as souvenirs of power. One woman, who remains anonymous, was 17 when she met Ridgway. She said, "He seemed nice. A little strange, but kind. He offered me food. Said I could rest in his truck." She got in. And soon, he tried to grab her neck. But she bit his arm, kicked the door, ran into traffic. She lived. She told her story. But in the 1980s, the police dismissed her. They said I was confused. Or maybe lying. Years later, she saw his face on the news. She said, "I wasn't crazy. That was him. I saw his eyes." Many families still hold memorials. Leave flowers by the river. Say their daughters' names out loud. One mother visits a tree where her daughter's body was found. Every year. She once said, "I want her to know. I still see her. I still remember." When Ridgway was arrested, it dominated headlines. Some called him worse than Dahmer. Others said he was the most patient killer alive. TV shows aired special reports. Newspapers printed the victim list in full. One article read, "The river gave them back." And he couldn't hide anymore. Still today, people ask, did he act alone? Why did he keep souvenirs? Was there trauma in his past? Gary claimed his mother was cruel, that he was humiliated as a boy. But many believe he was born broken, not made that way. This is not fiction. Every name, every quote, every death, it's all real. You can check court records, public interviews, and case files. The horror of Gary Ridgway isn't a movie, it's American history. For years, she stayed silent. But eventually, Gary's third wife, Judith Ridgway, spoke publicly. She said, "I lived with a monster, but he never showed me that side." She recalled the man who rubbed her feet every night, made her dinner, never shouted or raised a hand. She said, "He was gentle, loving, almost too perfect. But behind that smile, he was hiding dozens of bodies." When the FBI showed her photos, when they asked, "Do you recognize any of this?" Judith collapsed. She had shared a home with one of the most prolific serial killers in US history, and never once suspected him. "He was two people," she said. "One I loved, one I never knew." FBI profilers studied Ridgway's case for years. They said, he blended in too well. He killed without guilt or passion. He was motivated by power, not rage. He didn't fit the classic mold. He wasn't sloppy like Bundy, said one agent. He was patient, boring, average. And that's what made him dangerous. He hid in plain sight. Even his neighbors never saw the signs. One of Gary's darkest secrets was a mental map of all his victims. He didn't draw it on paper. He memorized it. He could take police to the exact tree stump where one girl lay, a ditch near a signpost, a spot by the river with a broken fence. Each location burned into his memory, but not their names. He forgot the girls, but remembered the dirt they died on. Despite his confessions, some women were never located. Gary said, "Some places I forgot. Others, I didn't want to give up." He admitted to more murders than he was charged with, but didn't help find them all. To this day, mothers still wait, still wonder. In 2003, a memorial was created near the Green River, a place where families could gather, say their names, leave flowers. On the wall, it says, "They were loved. They were lost. They are not forgotten." Gary Ridgway is now in Walla Walla State Penitentiary, Washington, in a solitary cell, under 24-hour watch. No television, no visitors, no name, just prisoner number 88170. He once told a guard, "This is the quietest my head has ever been." And yet, he never once said sorry. In 2011, the remains of another girl were found, Rebecca Moreo. Gary had confessed to killing her, but didn't know where she was. DNA proved it was her. He was charged with his 49th official murder. And police believe more bodies are still out there. It was October 1983. The Green River rippled beneath a quiet moon. Cold mist hovered above the water. Gary Ridgway parked his truck, dragged another body down the embankment. She was small, young, silent now. He looked into the water and whispered, "You're going home now." He watched her sink, then drove off, like nothing had happened. No sirens, no guilt, just the river, And another secret kept. Gary Ridgway killed at least 49 women, possibly over 90. He operated for 2 decades before his arrest. He passed a polygraph. He was married during his killings. He killed mostly sex workers, people society often overlooked. He helped police later, only to save himself from the death penalty. Some girls are still unnamed. Just bones. Just teeth. Just numbers in a file. They never got justice. Never got buried by name. And Gary? He won't say a word. Not anymore. Today, the house where Gary Ridgway once lived is empty. Neighbors say it feels colder. Like something lingers there. The rooms are still. The garden is overgrown. And the basement? Dark. Dead quiet. As if the house itself remembers. What no one else saw. The Green River still runs today. Children play nearby. Birds chirp. People pass by unaware. But deep beneath, the water remembers. Every stone. Every name. Every secret it was forced to carry. At a memorial, one mother said, "I don't care if he dies in prison. I just want people to say her name. She mattered. She wasn't trash." She lit a candle, stood in silence, and whispered, "I forgive you. But I will never forget. This isn't fiction." Every name, every quote, every crime is from real records, real court files, and public interviews. You can look it up. These victims were real. Their families still grieve. And their stories deserve to be told, truthfully, respectfully, and forever. Have you heard this story before? Did you know this many women died before the killer was caught? What would you have done if you were the one who got away? If real stories haunt you, the stories that echo long after the video ends. Subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we uncover the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Years after his conviction, new forensic DNA testing uncovered more shocking truths. In 2021, police used advanced genetic genealogy, the same method used to catch the Golden State Killer, and found one Jane Doe was April Dawn Buttram, missing since 1983. Another matched Sandra Denise Major, long thought to be a runaway. They were added to the official Green River victim list. And experts believe even more may still be waiting to be identified. Detectives who spent decades chasing Ridgway now speak at colleges and FBI seminars. One of them said, "He didn't just kill women. He killed hope. He killed closure. They carry the faces of the victims in their wallets. They remember every case file, every bone uncovered. They never forgot." Many of Ridgway's victims had children. One girl, now 42, says, "I don't remember her voice. But I remember the scream I heard when they told her she wasn't coming home." They lived in shelters. Grew up in pain. Some still leave letters at the Green River, hoping someone's listening. Books. TV documentaries. Netflix specials. Interviews. Everyone tried to explain Gary Ridgway. But even with all the footage, quotes, and evidence, one thing remains unanswered. How did no one stop him sooner? In his own words, "I'm not the worst guy. I just didn't want to pay for sex. So I killed them." Cold. Flat. Disturbingly rational. He truly believed he wasn't evil. That's what haunts people most. For 20 years, he went to work, attended parties, paid taxes, helped neighbors, and after dark, he hunted. "You wouldn't suspect him," said one neighbor. "That's what scares me most. We never saw it." Imagine this. A quiet night. Washington State. The Green River flowing steady. On the shore, A small white cross. A name carved in wood, Lisa Yates. A candle flickers. And beside it, a mother whispers, "You were never forgotten." She walks away. But the candle stays. Alone. Still burning. This isn't fiction. These were real girls. Real families. Real tears. You can read the court transcripts, the FBI reports, the taped confessions. Gary Ridgway was real. He lived among us. And his story should never be forgotten. Have you heard their names? Have you felt their silence? If you believe these stories must be remembered, if you believe justice should never be quiet, subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story. We don't just tell stories. We reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next story, because the next killer may be even closer than the Green River.